Hey everybody on YouTube, Karl Alexander here, and in today's video, I'm going to go over some of my tips on planning your next PC build from what I've learned over the last few years. If you're curious, the reason I'm doing this is the amount of comments I get on PC upgrades, and though I admit I am no expert, I thought these ideas could help someone out there. So first off is future-proofing. Now, it's not thrown around as much these days as it used to be, but the term future-proofing is pretty stupid. Technology moves close to light speed these days, and trying to stay ahead of the curve is impossible. However, when it comes to PC building, there are at least a few things you can do that will set you up for some easier upgrading down the line. Straight from Linus Tech Tips, the only two things you can future-proof in any major way is your case and your power supply. ATX is a standard that has been around since 1995 and doesn't seem to be going anywhere, so buying a good case and a good power supply is a great way to set yourself up for the future. For example, my power supply is a 700 watt Fatality from 2010, and honestly it works just as well today as it did 7 years ago. My case is the NZXT S340, and though I've only had it for a few years, I've just completed its first full upgrade, so those are two parts that can last you several years and will be worth the investment. To a smaller extent, you can help future-proof yourself with good storage and RAM. We just hit DDR4, so buying a good set of RAM now will probably last you till your next upgrade. And though SSDs and traditional hard drives have finite lifespans, my storage has always lasted me at least 2 builds. Unless you're doing some crazy file transferring and constant read and writes, most consumers will get several years out of their storage. And lastly, buying a good PC cooler like the Hyper 212 Evo is a great way to avoid even a small cost down the line. I know most air coolers are under about $50, but that's $50 you won't have to spend in a few years as long as your cooler stays compatible. And it seems like in most cases things like the 212 Evo are usable through several motherboard generations. Next up is upgrade cycles. Everyone has a different theory on upgrade cycles, and really you'll need to determine which is best for you. For example, I have a friend who simply builds a brand new PC every 5 or 6 years instead of upgrading it, and that's totally fine. If that's your style and upgradability is not your thing, then it can open you up to great deals on slightly older parts. However, if you want to keep up with the times, you may want to buy a newer platform for better upgradability. When you're planning your new PC, try to keep the future in sight. If you want to be able to upgrade your GPU in a few years, don't skimp on your CPU to avoid future bottlenecks. Obviously, to some extent, it's impossible to see into the future of PC gaming, but by looking at what we've got today, you can make some educated guesses on how you'll want to keep your machine up to date in the future. Understanding your needs and wants. This one seems simple, but understanding what you want or need out of a system is extremely important. Many people ask me in the comments about what video card they should upgrade to, but honestly, I can only help so much. I have no idea what kind of games you play or what kind of performance you want. If you were to only play indie games and MOBAs, your requirements for a good PC would be completely different than a person who wanted all the latest AAA titles running in 4K. I suggest looking at your setup and determining what you'll eventually want to achieve, and that will help push you towards the parts you'll need. Things to determine are monitor resolution, monitor refresh rate, target frame rates, and target quality settings. You'll also need to throw in variables like if you want to Twitch stream or make YouTube videos. Find your variables and start researching from there. Tons of YouTubers put out videos on all kinds of criteria. If you've got a limited budget, then look up builds at that budget to get an idea of what kind of parts people are using. And remember, if you aren't experienced, seek help on forums and places like Reddit. There are extremely knowledgeable people willing to help, and you should take advantage of that. Paying over time. Now, just to be clear, this isn't a paid promotion or anything. For me, using services like PayPal Credit has been great for planning a PC build or upgrade. If you have a steady flow of income, it can be easier to pay off a new PC over a small period of time instead of all at once, even if it's only to buy a certain part that's holding your build back. I don't want to advocate going into debt, and not paying these types of services off within the promotional period can cost you a lot in interest. But if you're smart about it, they can open you up to a better PC that in the long run will be a better investment. And of course, if you can't use this type of service because of your age or what country you live in or whatever, there is always the alternative. Save a bit more. Sometimes it's worth saving that extra $100, especially if it's your first build. And like I was saying previously, buying a good case and power supply will open you up to less expensive upgrades down the line. So saving now or paying over time can be worth it in the long run. And lastly, don't overthink price to performance. Now everyone wants to get a good deal, and PC building is no different. We can all look at YouTubers' different crazy enthusiast builds that cost 3 grand, but very few of us have the kind of money to do that, and as many of us know, it's not a great investment. This is where price to performance comes into play, which is totally reasonable, but often I've seen it be detrimental to somebody's build, including my own. In my previous full build from 2015, I fully focused on price to performance, and in turn built a solid machine for those few months in 2015. But my PC quickly aged and was struggling to play new titles at decent settings. When I look back, I could have spent an extra $200 on a better CPU-GPU combo and would have gotten a much longer lifespan. So while it's important to save money, it's also important to get as much performance as you can with your available budget. If spending an extra $200 now will give you an extra year or two of good performance, it may be worth the cost. Always consider this when buying parts that are already several years old. If you're planning your first build, I really suggest building on a platform that will offer you upgradability. For example, here in early 2017, it wouldn't be a bad option to build a Pentium G4560 system with a good motherboard, with the idea of upgrading to a 7600K down the line. Or on the new AMD platform, you could make a build with a 3 series chip and upgrade it to a 7 series chip in a few years. Building on an older platform will always be cheaper and could give you a better price to performance ratio, but in the long run might not offer you the same ability to upgrade, and in many cases could cost you more to start fresh on a new platform when it's time to upgrade. Okay, that's about all the tips I've got for this week. I hope these thoughts on PC building help someone out, and if you have any comments or tips of your own, put those down in the comments. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, I think you know what to do. And as always, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this one in the future. Coming up soon, I'll be getting Horizon Zero Dawn and doing a review on that. Also, I might be doing a review of the game Day of Infamy soon, so keep a lookout for those, and I'll see you in the next one.